We begin our election coverage tonight with the race for governor. Governor Mike DeWine's term ends this year.
So take a look. Republican Vivek Ramaswamy winning the Republican nomination, defeating Casey Putsch. Ramaswamy's running mate for lieutenant governor is Rob McCauley. He'll face Democrat Amy Acton, who's running with David Pepper.
We have team coverage tonight with Rochelle Aline with Dr. Amy Acton's campaign in downtown Columbus. First up, though, we're going to send things out to Kevin Landers in the Arena District where Vivek Ramaswamy is celebrating tonight. Kevin.
Yeah, good evening. This was the only contested Republican race with Vivek Ramaswamy defeating Casey Putsch. During his victory speech, Ramaswamy said he is not a bureaucrat, he is a businessman. He says he plans to lower housing prices in the state by bringing more housing to Ohio. He says he's lived the American dream. He is obviously an Indian who came here. His father were immigrants and parents were immigrants and came here. He also wants to bring more businesses to Ohio. He says he wants to turn Ohio into states like Tennessee and Florida, where they brought more businesses to the state.
I believe we're on the cusp of a new dawn for Ohio, one where we reconnect with our roots of ambition, the state that raised Neil Armstrong and John Glenn and the Wright brothers and Thomas Edison.
Ramaswamy wasted no time by attacking his opponent, Dr. Amy Acton. Quote, he said that she, quote, abandoned her responsibilities when it came to new sciences, when it came to looking at new viruses for COVID-19. Reporting live downtown, Kevin Landers, 10 TV News. Now back to Rochelle Aline, who's covering the Amy Acton campaign.
You know, Kevin, on the other side of things, she was running unopposed, so her accepting the nomination tonight wasn't a complete surprise. She actually called it the honor of a lifetime. She also highlighted several parts of her platform, talking about her commitment to affordability. She also says she wants to end political corruption and that she will fight to make sure that every voice in our state is heard.
To all the Ohioans out there who may be feeling invisible or alone, my promise to you is this: no one will ever be invisible to me. No one will be invisible to me in this state.
Acton has polled very well with her base. The question between now and November is if her message will poll well with a larger audience. In Columbus, Rochelle Aline, 10 TV News.
All right, thank you, Rochelle. Thank you, Kevin. Here's a look at your race for governor. Republican Vivek Ramaswamy is facing Democrat Amy Acton and Libertarian Don Kissick.
We're going to send things over to 10 TV political reporter Doug Petcash and political analyst David Niven from the University of Cincinnati to break down this race just a little further. Doug, great job on Ohio Votes tonight streaming.
It was a lot of fun over those 4 hours. We covered a lot of ground and we did a lot focusing on the race for governor. Of course, as you mentioned, Dr. Amy Acton running unopposed tonight. She was already known that was a formality. She would be in November. Vivek Ramaswamy very handily, Dr. Niven, with his victory, 82.4% to Casey Putsch's 17.6%. But are there any red flags in these numbers for Vivek Ramaswamy looking forward?
A couple of red flags. One of them is the total number of votes. If the rate continues at this pace, they're going to come in probably 100,000 votes shy of where Republicans were 4 years ago and 8 years ago, which could indicate a certain softness and enthusiasm for the party and its candidate. That 17.6% is another red flag in terms of how many of those votes are going to disappear in November, maybe go libertarian, folks who are maybe not very comfortable with Ramaswamy. And if you look at where they are, exactly, they're concentrated in Appalachian, Ohio, where you see upwards of 25%. In some cases, if you get all the way over towards Cincinnati, you're in 27%, in this case 30%. These aren't great numbers for Ramaswamy.
Looking at the Ohio River Valley. All right, we're going to be back in a little bit looking at another race, but right now let's send it back to Jeff and Yolanda.
All right, thank you, Doug and David. We'll check back with you guys in a few minutes.
We'll return now to the race for U.S. Senate, with Democrats running to challenge Republican incumbent John Husted. Former Senator Sherrod Brown defeated Ron Kincaid. Brown is looking to return to the Senate after losing to Bernie Moreno in 2024.
Annabelle Childers with our sister station was in Cleveland tonight and has more from Sherrod Brown's campaign.
Well, not long after the polls closed, this race was called officially in favor of Sherrod Brown. That was the expected outcome tonight, but the excitement here is still very high now that Brown has solidified his spot as the Democratic candidate in this U.S. Senate special election. Now, Brown took the stage around 8:15 to give his victory speech after defeating his primary opponent, Ron Kincaid. Brown drilled home the key issues of his campaign. He talked about rising costs and the need for affordable health care, and he pledged to fight for Ohio workers over corporations and billionaires if he were to be elected.
Costs are too high. Utilities, health care, groceries, everything.
As Annabelle Childers reporting, Sherrod Brown will take on incumbent Senator John Husted.
Now, we reached out to Senator Husted's campaign today, but they were not holding any events. The senator did post this video after casting his vote today.
I promise you, if you elect me this fall, we will fight hard for you in Washington. We will make sure that we have an Ohio First, America First agenda, and I look forward to the battle that will come over the next 6 months.
So taking a look right now, the matchup for U.S. Senate, Republican incumbent John Husted taking on Democrat Sherrod Brown and Libertarian William Redpath.
Now let's send things back over to 10 TV political reporter Doug Petcash and political analyst David Niven with the University of Cincinnati to break down this Senate race.
All right, it definitely shaped up as we expected it would. We have Senator John Husted against former Senator Sherrod Brown. Dr. Niven, where are you seeing the key areas for this race to play out? It looks like it is going to be a tight one.
Right. You know, for Sherrod Brown, there's this northeastern Ohio corridor that used to be the Democratic base.
The Mahoning Valley
area.
Mahoning
Valley. These were counties that went for Obama in 2008. They went for Obama in 2012. And then they went Trump, sometimes for the first time going Republican in the case of Trumbull County in 100 years. This is the kind of place where Sherrod Brown needs to reclaim the Democratic strength. And obviously his message is suited for that. It's very much about economics. It's very much about kitchen table issues. And I think you saw, and again, there's a contrast with Ramaswamy, though this lesser known candidate won 10% of the vote, quite a bit less than Ramaswamy's opponent did. So, Brown's established, hold over the Ohio Democrats has continued tonight.
It's getting started now, heading toward November. Back to you again, Jeff and Yolanda.
All right, thank you both. Our coverage continues tonight with a look at some of the ballot measures at Issue 5, the Community Crisis Response Amendment for Columbus.
Now, here's a look tonight, and right now this really has strong support. It's actually been called. So winning by 77% of the vote right now, this has passed. And 10 TV's Libby Cathy is live outside of City Hall tonight. Good evening, Libby. And I know they were celebrating quite early for this, right?
That's right, Yolanda. Even though now you say we can officially say this has passed, this group here at the ACLU of Ohio, actually, we ended up coming here. They already declared victory well early or into the night. They said that they expected this to pass. And what it is this amendment right here. It's going to be creating a crisis response team here in Columbus, essentially changing how some 911 calls are handled here so that in the cases of non-violent emergency situations, perhaps a drug overdose or a mental health emergency, 911 callers could see, instead of police or fire responding, mental health specialists, behavioral specialists responding here. I spoke to Council President Shannon Hardin, and he said this will make the city safer.
Tonight we are celebrating a community win, a Columbus win, and I think that Columbus will be a safer, more just city because of the vote of the people tonight.
Now, some residents who voted no on this issue say they're concerned it could raise taxes down the road, although there are no tax increases associated with the issue right now. And now this will take time officially passing for it to be implemented. The city has until 2030 to get this fully operational. Reporting live in Columbus, Libby Cathy, 10 TV News.
All right, thank you very much, Libby. Now, in Franklin Township, a levy to support the fire department has failed for the second time.
Yeah, Franklin Township had placed the nearly $6 million levy on the ballot in hopes to reopen the fire station that has been closed. 59% of voters voted against the levy.
10 TV's Carla Rogner is live outside Franklin Township. And Carla, what are trustees saying about this failure once again?
Yeah, Yolanda, they are disappointed. I talked to 2 of the 3 township trustees here after those results came in. They say they felt like they worked hard to pass the levy this time. That would have cost voters $557 per every $100,000 of their home's value. The fire station behind me here on Frank Road's actually been closed since last summer after the second levy failure. They're hoping to use this money to reopen this fire station and continue to fund fire services here. Now, Township trustee John Fletchman says there's not much else they can cut. Take a listen.
Well, we can't cut any more. Back in November, we did get a temporary levy passed, and we're keeping one station open at this time, and it's in the middle of the township.
Okay.
So I don't know how much more we can cut unless we go to horse and buggy.
Yeah, Fleischman says that he's concerned about some information that went out in the last week or so that he says included inaccuracies about the levies, and he's worried that that could have swayed voters. Now he says for now residents here should just plan to continue waiting longer for emergencies. Reporting live in Franklin Township, Carla Rogner, 10 TV News.
Carla, thanks for that. Also, voters in Pickerington tonight made their voices heard on a 1.25% tax initiative to generate approximately $33 million annually for that local school district.
And here's a look at the vote tonight. All precincts reporting in Fairfield County. This levy failed with 63% of voters saying no. 10 TV's Catherine Simon has been following this ballot issue for us and joined us live from Pickerington tonight. And Catherine, the district says it's been overspending for years and needed this money to prevent layoffs and other cuts. So what happens now?
Well, Yolanda, the superintendent had said they have already laid out what some of these cuts would likely look like, saying that they would likely start with some extracurriculars and some staff positions. But he said they could go even further to eliminating some high school electives and possibly even on-campus college credit plus classes. Now, the district had said they needed this money because they've been deficit spending for 4 years. And the superintendent told me they've projected a $14 million deficit for fiscal year 2029. Now, I did just about 15 minutes ago get a statement from Jackie Behus from the group Vote for Pick Kids, which was supporting the levy, saying while this wasn't the outcome they'd hoped for, they're grateful to those who supported the schools, and they hope that the school board will approve a levy issue for the upcoming November election. Reporting live in Pickerington tonight, Catherine Simon, 10 TV News.
All right, thank you, Catherine. I think it's just a tough time to ask for more money from people. Everyone feels kind of strapped right now with just about everything going up. Yeah, so that was tough.